Okay, welcome to the September 22nd, 2020 workshop, Village of Buchanan workshop meeting. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of
of
the
the
United States of America
and
and
to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under
under
God,
God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, Marcus, we have quite a bit of things to discuss this evening, so if you could start and walk us through the agenda.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, everybody, for joining. The first item of the agenda is we've been talking back and forth about an overlay district on the Route 9 corridor within a certain area of the C1 district. David Stallman is here to describe where we stand, provide an update, and maybe answer any questions, and then also provide the process if the village board would like to continue with the process to rezone that area. So with that, David Stallman.
Thanks very much, Marcus. I'm going to try to share my screen now. You may have to enable that.
Yes, hold on a second. Give me just 1 minute.
Sure. Just let me know.
Yep.
What the hell just happened?
Try to share my screen now.
Oops.
Sorry, hold on a second.
Stand by for technical difficulties. We'll be with you in a minute.
You should have access now, David.
Yep, got it. Thank you.
No problem.
Ow.
So Marcus asked me to put together a bit of a refresher with respect to the purposes and the benefits of the C1, C2 overlay district and the architectural design guidelines, which are equally important. So that's what I've done. So I've got a few slides to show you here. With respect to the purpose of the C1, C2 overlay district, it's to foster the development and redevelopment of the Route 9A corridor in a manner which would be visually and financially beneficial to the village by the creation of the district and its incentives. And I think it's important to note that history has shown that without these incentives in this overlay district, the village is very unlikely to change its current pattern of land use in the foreseeable future. And I think that's what we're trying to achieve. So here we have a map showing the, in the brown, the original C1, C2 overlay district, encompassing all of the C2 district and part of the C1 district to the circle. And then later on, we talked about adding a strip of land on the easterly side, and you see it in blue there, on the easterly side from White Street to Bleakley, which is now zoned M1, changing that to C2 possibly, and making that part of the overlay district as well. So the benefits, this would improve the appearance and, can't see that next word, and the community character of the village, particularly with respect to the gateways into the village. It would also enhance the image of Buchanan as a place to visit, shop, work, and live. It would actually increase the value of the properties that are in the overlay district because of the potential for additional density. It would broaden the tax base as a result of all of that. It would encourage development and redevelopment of a character desired by the village and would facilitate or streamline the revision and approval, the review and approval process for parcels in the overlay district. So this is actually a site in New Jersey, in Lincoln Park actually, and it's not too dissimilar from areas that we're talking about in the village. Here's another shot of this area. And the township in New Jersey, Lincoln Park, is entertaining this instead of what you just saw before. And the design guidelines are very important to getting a design and a type of building that you would like to see and ensuring that in advance. So this area is going from this to that. And these are other examples of the kind of development you may be interested in achieving in the village as new development or redevelopment. And I've just got a series of images here because everyone's taste is different, but maybe you'll see something here that you like.
May I say something?
Sure.
I think we're likely to have independent buildings more so than those rows of buildings, that kind of city character that, like that shot in particular, that shot, that one. They show consecutive individual buildings, denser building next to building. I think we're likely to have parcels and individual projects. And to me, the architectural guidelines are to prevent atrocities, you know, prefab buildings, and to keep some kind of uniformity from building to building. I don't know that we'll have that kind of continuous chain like a couple of those shots.
Right. Some
We
of
could get a nice individual building and then another one a little further up. I think that's more likely on 9A. More so than like these couple of shots that show several buildings in a very old city fashion along the sidewalk, like what you might see as you walk down, you know, Main Street in Tarrytown or something.
Right.
Hey,
you know,
Nick.
Yes.
Nick. Yeah,
Yes.
this is a question. You know, the extended area of the overlay district, which would cover those properties in back of Fat Sal's. I kind of yeah, because if I'm not mistaken, that little sliver there covers that from White Street back, and
yes, it covers Tate Avenue and White Street up to from the circle out to 9A.
right. And I don't know. I mean, just architecturally looking at it, that setup that he showed could possibly work in particular in that area, because I know initially when we were talking about the master plan some years ago, the idea was to have that area that's between White and the little Tate area, part, where we would maybe have had had the post office moved, a drugstore in there, or a bank or something with some apartments on top. So I think that makes it a little bit more doable in my mind.
It really, it's a matter of getting developers to pitch proposals and kind of keep the architectural guidelines so that they're not all over the place as we go up and down this zone. You know, we want to have some cohesion, not that everything has to be exactly alike, but you know.
Well, I mean, I think the separate buildings is a good idea too, or
you're saying on White you can get a string like that. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, well, one developer I spoke to talked about that would be a great place to, you know, if there's one house there to buy, and then there's the lot where we tore down something, and then there's the old billboard lot. So with a developer buying out that one house that's there and getting access to the other properties, could do something like you're saying, or could do a small row of townhouses. And you know, I mean, so it's largely a function of getting developers who could say, well, you know, what they would like to do. I think, you know, once we clear this, past this overlay, I think that the next step is developers to come in and make proposals.
I think you would probably get different types in different areas of the village, but you would ensure that the architecture is good regardless.
Yeah.
The architectural review, yes.
Guys, could I just ask quick questions, Cheech?
Yeah, Cheech.
On that blue slot that you have right there. Now I'm just trying to visualize that. That's on the like where the barber shop is. It's that bottom edge of the road there, heading towards Fat Sal's.
No, the blue is 9A. It's the 5 or 6 houses that are across the street from Rowlindo.
Oh, okay, okay.
It's from those houses south to the,
To White Street in
to
the circle.
to the entrance to Wick, basically, and a little
Correct.
bit beyond that. It's up
That's
to the
correct.
corner of White Street, from Blakely to White Street on the other side of 9A.
Oh, okay, okay, thank you.
And Cheech, that's the area where all those the cars are being parked on the side of the road there.
Okay, I was confused. I was thinking it was across that way. Okay, thank you. I
So
got it now.
the westerly side of that road is zone C2, and this would match the C2 on the easterly side and put it in the overlay district as well.
Gotcha.
And that's currently
That's
zone
for-
M1 or M2?
It's zone M1,
M1, okay.
and there is some industrial development to the east of the blue.
And David,
East of the blue.
yeah,
That's Wick.
that's Wick to the right. If you're looking at it to the right, Cheech.
Okay, gotcha. All right, I got it. I got it. Thank you. I got it.
Between the blue area and Route 9, the highway.
Okay, I got it. I got it. Thank
Behind
you.
Wick.
And David, you might want to mention, I know there was some confusion that overlay districts are used in a lot of municipalities throughout the country. In fact, Yorktown is actually looking at a number of overlay districts as well. So maybe you
Right.
want to mention, how overlay districts have worked.
Well, they've worked really well, despite what's been said about them at meetings like this. And I'm glad you gave the village board the Yorktown example, but they're used all over the country for this kind of purpose.
So if the board is wanting to entertain to continuing the process, so David, why don't you just talk about what the process will look like?
Sure. Well, the first thing we would do is prepare a full environmental assessment form so that we can start the seeker process. After that, we would modify very slightly based upon comments which have been made. We'd modify very slightly the local law, which the village board would introduce by resolution. The village board would schedule a public hearing regarding the local law and hold that public hearing. The village board would direct the referral of the local law to the county planning department and the village planning board for their advisory opinions. And then the village board, by resolution, including presumably a negative declaration, would adopt the local law. And that's the end of the process.
David, just quick question. There was some concerns about how big, how many units would be in the apartment part of those structures. Is there at what point do we say only 1 and 2 bedrooms?
Well, I think that if that's what you want throughout the overlay district, we should probably address that now.
Yeah, I that's where my thinking was, that we wouldn't have any 3-bedroom apartments there. We would just stick with 1 and 2 bedrooms. So, like I said, I would want to put that in up front, so that's established in the development guidelines.
Right. We have to modify the local law very slightly anyway. So if there's a consensus of the village board with respect to that, we could add that as well or modify that as well.
Yeah, I'd like to. I don't know how anyone else feels about it. Nick?
I'm not opposed to limiting the number of 3 bedrooms. Is the concern taxing the school district? If you had larger apartments, you're more likely to get larger families with kids. I'm not. Is that the reason behind it?
That's a partial reason. Yes.
Okay. I mean, I think that the biggest demand is going to be 1 and 2 bedroom. I'm not really sure. Does anybody else have an opinion? I'm open to that, personally.
Yeah, I agree with Dwayne on that. 1 and 2 would be the starting point. I'd be a little hesitant on the 3 as well.
And would that be, let's say you had a 30-unit building, would it be okay to have 1 or 2 3-bedrooms? To have a couple, and then and a couple of studios, and then 1 and 2 bedroom, or do you would like none?
Well, I mean, to use the example of a 30-unit building, I don't think that would be
That's a lot.
Yeah, I don't think that
That's
would
a
be
lot.
practical in that. I mean, I don't envision that, but explain it to me.
Well, I'm not sure. I know that, the over there across from the school, where Carbone has a lot. He's talking about an apartment. He's talking about a small apartment building, and I think he's going to come and ask for more than that. So we also need to address, a density. I think that is somewhat addressed here. I think what he's probably going to come and ask for more than we want. I'm not exactly sure if he's got plans drawn up or if it's in his head. But my sense is that he's going to want more than that even. So I'm just throwing 30 out.
I would be hesitant to raise the height limit more than 3 stories.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that if you're
I
doing
agree.
with 3 stories, the idea of 30 units probably wouldn't work that way. But
Well, it depends on the size of the lot.
Yeah.
I
yeah,
agree.
that's true.
I'm fine with the 3 stories. That seems to be what people are comfortable with.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. But if the footprint is big enough, if the building is out enough,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, just off the surface right now, I would think a 3-story building, still limiting it to 1 and 2 bedrooms. I'd like to, kind of stick with that footprint. But if you were talking about, a longer building, which would give you more units, again, that would be the development restrictions that I would look at.
Yeah, I mean, we could also put something in there like, if somebody comes in with a larger proposal, to give the planning board the discretion to say maybe a maximum of 1 in 10 units could be a 3-bedroom. At the planning board's discretion, depending on this, then they could look at the whole size of the building and the impact and review it, I mean.
Nick, say that again. Say that again. I'm sorry. Say that again.
You can give the planning board will be the agency that's going to review site
Okay.
plan. And you could say something like, give the planning board the discretion to allow, say, 1 in 10 of the apartments to be 3-bedroom.
Oh,
Well, I mean, don't they have that discretion already, Nick, to of
Well,
a
they have
developer?
discretion within the code, and since what we're doing here is writing the code for this,
Mhm.
what we decide becomes the code. Their discretion has to fall within what we allow in the overlay zone. We write the code, then they have to follow it, and we can write the code so that they absolutely cannot do something, or we could write the code that if they see fit. For example, typically in the village, you're only allowed to cover 30% of your lot. Area-wise, your house and your driveway and your deck cannot be more than 30% of your area. But if you look at the old buildings in the commercial areas, the old buildings, they are way over that because that's the way they were built. Commercial buildings with their parking and everything are often over that 30%. And I think David put it in there that at the discretion of the planning board, they can increase the allowance for lot coverage up to, David, correct me if I'm wrong, 75%?
That's correct, Nick.
Which happens, like if you look at in the village circle, the buildings there with their parking areas in the building, some of them are nearly 100% lot coverage, meaning paved surfaces plus buildings.
okay.
Yeah, but that was before 51.
Prior to zoning.
And in order to give a developer up to 50%, 75%, I'm sorry, they would have to provide effective perimeter screening, and the board would have to determine that the increase in conforms to sound planning principles as well.
Yeah, and that's where, in David, in your draft, and if there's a later copy, forgive me because I don't have it in front of me, but in your draft under Part C bulk regulations, you say if the permitted lot coverage in this overlay district may be increased at the sole discretion of the reviewing authority, and I take that to be the planning board.
Yes, it would be the planning board, yes.
Yeah, they can go up to 75%, which would be, a lot of the buildings that look in the village circle. and look for the unpaved areas, and you'll see that these buildings are 75, 80, 90% coverage sometimes. That happens in commercial zones, not in residential. But where you have, say, townhouses with parking behind, you could very easily hit 50%. Are we going to set a limit of 50%? And then, is that what it is? And then at their discretion, they go up to 75? I'm trying to remember.
I'm trying to recall myself.
Well, maybe we can check that.
It's not, you don't go to 75% automatically.
No, there should be a cap of, say, I'm just saying 50%, we could review that. But, and then at the planning board's discretion with the site plan review to go up to 75.
And that would be written into the regulation.
Yes.
Right, Nick, you're right. In the C1 and C2 districts, the maximum lot coverage is 50%.
Right, okay. So we could, so by saying 75%, you know, they could look at the lot. Now, if the lot is bigger and there's woods behind it, chances are they're not gonna need to go to 75%. But let's say where Dwayne was referring to on White Street, if somebody wanted to put a row of buildings there and parking behind, they may need to go to 75%.
Right.
And Nick, that's a good point. I wanted to bring that up too. We're going into parking, because in my experience, what's happening is if you want to have all the parking on site, they're going to have more impervious area. So we need to make sure that the parking is maintained as much as possible on site to keep the parking off the road. So
Yeah.
Well, I think the guideline, what I put in here, and I think what David also put in here was to keep the parking behind.
yes,
So that the buildings, when you think of downtowns, your buildings are closer to the street. You have a wide sidewalk, you could have landscaping and a sidewalk, but you get the parking behind. And that's
Yep.
part of the reason, whereas typically in the village, you have to have a 30-foot setback, that we propose going to 20-foot, I believe. Is that correct, David?
That's right, that's right.
Yep.
And the building location would be based upon the architectural design guidelines. And the parking regulations of the village require that all parking for commercial uses be on site, and multifamily residential as well, that all parking be on site.
And generally behind.
We'd like to have it behind, right?
okay.
Okay, so I just want to review for people who are watching this so that they understand, you know, exactly what we're talking about. So we're starting from the southernmost entrance from the village, where St. Christopher's is,
Yes.
all down the 9A up the 9A corridor going north, just past Blakely Avenue, and I believe the two lots that are there on the left would include the village-owned property.
That's correct.
There's about okay.
Yes.
So
Those,
now-
last,
and
those
then-
last two little squares are the village-owned property.
Okay.
It's a double lot totaling about 0.8 acres.
Right, it's not a full acre. Also coming in solely into the village circle, that C1 area.
That's correct, yes, yes.
So
Yes.
out of the circle, the building heights out there are 2.5 stories. So you're thinking of going an extra story. I'm just listening to all this. So now, if you're talking about 3-story buildings, are you talking 3 stories of all apartments? What are you talking about? What are you guys looking to do?
I think that there can be both. And if a developer comes and says he'd like to do the stores with the apartments above, somebody else may come and want to do a 3-story apartment building.
Or
Is that what,
townhouses for that matter.
pardon?
Or townhouses for that matter.
Or townhouses. Is the apartment building on Bannon Avenue 3 stories? I'm trying to remember.
Yes, I believe
It
that,
is?
but that's prior to zoning, and that would not,
Correct.
but that
But-
would not be built
and that's on a
today
residential
because
street.
it's in the center of a residential area.
Right.
So this is going to be, that would be an indication of the size we're talking about, but it would not be on the residential street, which is one of the good things. We're not looking to make any changes on the residential streets, which is another good thing to point out to people that are listening.
Absolutely. We're trying to, if this does pass and the board is agreeable to this, we're still trying to retain the character of the village. So we're not looking to put up high rises. My only concern would be if you start talking about putting stores on the bottom floors, I really don't want to see retail that's there and it's vacant, because that does not look good in a community.
This is true.
Yep.
And then,
I don't know
why
in
some
today's
people
world,
wanna-
you know, the possibility of renting retail. You know, we're not in White Plains. You know, so
Right.
you're not going to see a CVS come here. And yes, I know there's one.
Right.
So I'm just saying, for example, you're not going to see a Starbucks come here, because when you get these big companies, what they do is they actually do the research. You know, they check on the income of the area. They check on traffic. There's different things that they look at before they decide to invest in a community. So
You could possibly get a Starbucks. I mean, not initially, but if there were, you know, some more new townhouses and buildings, if there was, I mean, that 9A gets a lot of traffic. I mean, I wouldn't rule it out completely. It's possible.
Yeah, Teresa, what I could see is a little coffee house, for example, a little coffee house, maybe a couple little shops, maybe a couple restaurants. That's what I'm hoping, and then maybe some townhouses along the way, and hopefully there'll be a nice walking corridor all on Route 9. I think there might be some interest for that.
The zoning does not require retail or commercial downstairs.
okay, so, and I'm also talking traffic. So how many units? I'm just playing devil's advocate here. You know,
Sure.
it's nice to have new construction and everything, but how does that work in the community also? So say, for example, I don't know, somebody's able to build 100 units. So what does that do to the traffic on the road? It's only a 1-lane road there. You know, how much development are you going to do before your traffic might be affected?
That's
That's
an important
We get them
question.
already with when the VA changes shifts, you know, around 3:30, 4 o'clock, there's a lot of traffic on that road.
I think it's a good question. David, what do you suggest, how do you suggest we handle this?
Well, first of all, you need quite a bit of property to build that many units, because in order to start, you need 40,000 square feet. You need almost an acre to start. And the maximum number of dwelling units we were talking about was 12 per acre, roughly. So you need a heck of a big piece of property to do 100 units.
Okay, so for example, what is the size of the property across from St. Christopher's?
I don't remember, but I think he's
Developer
got,
that has purchased that property. So what I'd like to talk about, what are the properties currently that could be developed in today's world? Say this overlay, we decided to pass this overlay. So how many properties is this going to affect now?
We can certainly look at that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think that property is about 5 acres. The road frontage would be, he wouldn't develop the back portion. It goes way down the hill and there's wetlands.
Yeah, there's a nice pond back there.
So it might be 5 acres, of which, say, tops half could be developed. And, well, you know what, a traffic study could be, the planning board could also require a traffic study when people come in for a proposal.
Sure, absolutely.
And, a possible solution on 9A is the adding of a turn lane in the middle. Because a lot of times the traffic is bad because if somebody is making a left, everybody else has to wait. So, if you had turn lanes, then the person could get out of the way and traffic could keep, that would be a possible solution.
Right. In order to approve anything in this overlay district, the planning board would have to go through the seeker process, and they could certainly ask for a traffic study.
So that should be, I think the planning board is going to be the reviewing agency, and I think the planning board knows that if there's a concern that they could request a traffic study, but we could put that into the print here too.
Well, I don't think we'd put it in here, but they should be made aware, if they're not aware already, that they certainly can require.
Yeah, that's in their power.
If I may, for a minute, David, we always require traffic,
Okay, very
planning board,
good.
always.
Thanks, Stephanie.
There
Sure.
you go.
So currently, the properties that could be developed would be, there's other properties later on that have the potential, but currently, we're talking about the Geist property for the old timers, you know what I'm talking about. And that's the property that was just purchased across from the church. We are talking about the property to the left of the hardware store. There's a piece
Yep.
of property right there where the road goes in.
Yep.
We're talking about, I'm trying to think, what else? What
Well,
else?
the triangle lot across from the hardware store,
Yes, uh-huh.
but then you're also talking about other properties. Let's say somebody looks at White Street and says, well, if I can get those two vacant lots and buy and make an offer to the guy, the one house that's there, now I've got whatever it is, 200, 150 feet of road frontage for townhouses, or, you know, so it's those few vacant lots, but then this also would allow a developer to try and buy out 4 or 5 houses, and do something. That, well, there's that Rotary gas station building across, and there's Celix.
Mm-hmm.
Celix is, you know, at some point could change. That could become available. I mean, you know, so it's the few vacant lots, and then there's the potential for somebody to try to buy out other people and do a development. That's, you know, that's where we would look for proposals from developers and then review them.
So I don't think on the 9A corridor there, I don't, and I know we talked a little bit about this, but I don't think row after row after row after row of 3-story buildings would be appropriate. It'd be like a canyon going through the middle of there, and I don't think that's appropriate either, because that will take away some of the character of the village.
Yeah, I don't think you're all going to get the same thing. You might get some townhouses. You might get a building with stores underneath. You might get an apartment building without stores underneath. I don't think
You know,
you're
I think-
gonna get,
I think this would take a long time to happen. And he was,
Long.
And
It'll take years and years before you look at the whole corridor being done. But the idea is, the hopes is that property will get redeveloped. There's a lot of blighted properties in that area that hopefully somebody will get excited to do something and then bring tax revenue back to the village. I think that's the overall concept we're trying to do.
it wouldn't
Yeah.
happen overnight. You'd see it coming, and you could always
Right.
change zoning.
and there are stable buildings and stable businesses, the hardware store, the firehouse, a couple of the stone buildings just north of the firehouse that are actually kind of nice looking old stone buildings. You know, there's enough stuff there that you're not going to just see like a wall of new buildings. I think you're going to get pieces. And,
It would take decades, and you'd see it coming.
yeah. Nobody's going to go rip out this whole mile of 9A and create a new super city. It's just going to be pieces.
Incremental.
Thank you. That's a better word than pieces.
I like pieces.
Yeah.
I'll say Reese's pieces.
1, 2, 3. So currently, we're looking at a potential, if this passes, we're looking at a potential of 3 pieces of property that could accelerate the development of that.
3 currently empty pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
We can do calculations and figure out how many units that would represent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'd like to know that.
Yeah.
Sure.
And
Good
so
question.
the triangle property, then you would allow that building to be 3 stories also?
No.
Because you've got houses, you've got people, you've got a residential area that lives across the street, and they're used to seeing the view of 9A, and then suddenly they're going to see a building in their face.
3 stories.
Interesting.
I'm trying to play devil's advocate as much as possible,
Sure.
just throw out different questions, just, you know, that this is thought through. And
Yeah. Well, that's a good point. David, the other two larger lots don't seem to have that issue, but that small triangular lot, do you know which one Teresa's referring to?
One on the circle?
No, if you go down,
Really right across the hardware
you
store.
see where the line separating the R75 and the R10 is?
Yes.
And that comes right into the overlay zone, and there's a little triangular lot there.
Okay, yes.
So there's a foundation sitting there, and there are three houses there. That could be kind of close to those houses. Maybe we have to just look at that before we put in any final draft of this.
We may have to tweak that. We'll take a look at that.
You know,
I mean, the places where you're talking about can be developed are on the opposite side of the road where there is nothing but woods behind it. There's an M1 behind it.
Yeah.
There's also Con Edison lines.
Right.
so David, is it possible to add some language that giving that if there is site obstruction for existing private homes, that the planning board could keep the limit at 2 stories? Is there some way to do something like that?
We can think about and work on some sort of view shed restriction.
View shed, another good word.
Sure, we can look at that, absolutely.
Yeah.
So does the board want to get so let me ask the board, so that, do they want David to come back with some additional language first before we move forward, or what does the board would like to do?
Yeah, I would say definitely to, like the triangle spot does present a special set of circumstances. So to kind of take those measures up front and see how we might want to deal with that. But I think the overall ability to limit it at 3 stories, I think it's sound and in character with that corridor for the most part, and would give a potential developer putting some meat on the bone.
Is it possible to tweak the wording and send it out to the board by email to review?
Sure, absolutely.
And then what would be other than some tweaking to the wording based on this conversation, what would be the next step?
I would prepare a full environmental assessment form to initiate the seeker process.
Well, I think we need to go to that step, don't we?
Yeah, once we've had a chance to look at the new language or the language.
Well, I know with the once a month meeting, things tend to get stretched out and dragged on. I'm wondering if we could do the review of the language through the email, through our, online beforehand, and then each person can comment, and then go, start the process for the environmental. Does the change in the language affect the environmental review?
Ever so slightly, not very much.
All right, so whatever you guys suggest we do, you know the process.
Let's just get that with the email first, and then we'll go with the other step. How's that?
Sounds good.
And I'd like to have feedback from our planning and zoning boards too, what their thoughts are on this, since they'll be dealing with this too.
On that point, is that could be part of the secret process, or do you want to send the documentation before the secret process to the planning and zoning board?
I think
Didn't we do that already?
The original document, yes.
Oh, okay. So if there's any tweaking of the wording, should be sent to them as well then?
Yeah. And the planning board has to have it referred to them officially as well.
That's correct.
For
So
their-
David, when you get the new language, I'll forward over to the zoning board, planning board, and the village board for any comments back to you. And then after we finalize that, then we'll go to the next step if that's what the board would like to do.
That sounds good. I took copious notes.
All right, perfect. Okay. All right, David, thank you so much.
Welcome. Good seeing you all. Have a good
Thank
evening.
you.
David.
David,
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye. You bet.
Okay, the next item on the agenda we have for the board to discuss is there's some tweaking we have to do to the dumpster law that we adopted some time ago. So if Stephanie wants to explain what that language might look like.
Sorry, I wasn't listening. What do you want to do? What are we
Oh,
up to, the
the-
dumpsters?
Yeah, the dumpsters. Yeah, the little update to the code.
Correct. Okay. Did everybody get a copy?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
All right, so we had some complaints, that we use the words commercial establishment versus owners. And this particular complaint sort of suggested that he wasn't then responsible, so I would like to change that language to say the owners of all properties where dumpsters are serviced by the Village of Buchanan will be charged. And that's
Right.
really the gist of it. I changed it, wherever you see the red, that's where it's changed.
Yep.
That's it.
Makes sense.
All right. So,
Very
Good with
clear.
that.
perfect. So on the next meeting, at the October meeting, we'll be calling, the board will be calling for a public hearing for the November meeting. Perfect. The next item is senior meetings. The mayor would like to do an update on the possibility of having meetings with seniors.
I know some of the seniors are looking to come back. I know they said that COVID is potentially kicking back up in October, the virus. I'm hesitant, but I think what the seniors want to do, and maybe it was something they could have done over the summer, was to use the pavilion. This way it would be outside, and you know, everybody has to socially distance and wear their mask. So I don't know, what are the board's thoughts on this?
Well, I would still want to put a cap on the amount of people, and I don't know if we would do that by 6 feet, you know, divided into how big the pavilion is, or you know, the seating arrangements. But I mean, the senior meeting is usually what, 18 to 24 people, something like that, a little less.
Oh, no. No, there's
Lord,
that.
the place is full. The place is
Yeah,
full.
There could be 60, 75 people there. It
Yeah, that's a lot of
depends, you know,
people.
what's going
A lot
on.
of people.
Now, Marcus, they weren't looking to come into the village hall, were they?
No. Originally, when I saw Mike was thinking about using the pavilion, but you know, as we all know, it's getting a little chilly out there right now.
Getting
So
chilly.
yeah, so I don't know if this. I asked him to give me a summary of how he would make sure the seniors are protected. So I was waiting for that report to give to the village board to consider to do that. So I haven't received anything yet, but I told him I think the board will be open to it as long as we know CDC regulations. So we're still waiting for that to come in. But my concern is right now, and it's we got a little heat wave the next couple of days, and we'll be in the high 70s. But after that, I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, they could have been doing this earlier in the summer. There's probably enough room in the pavilion for them to space out,
I think so.
to keep distance.
Yep.
The weather's going to become an issue now. And I think the bathroom's an issue because, hey, I'm a senior and I got to pee more than I used to, you know? You need
Thank you
bathrooms,
for sharing.
you know?
Speak for yourself.
Back to life.
So yeah, have him give us a plan of what he thinks he can do to
Yep.
comply by the CDC, and let's see what we can do. We did have a request from the school also, to use the field, behind the pavilion, to use the pavilion itself. So they're moving forward with that. They know what the requirements are, and they will have all the insurances in place. So so the school will be using that during the day a lot also. But I don't know how much longer. You know, there's two things. We're eventually going to be redoing that pavilion. We've gotten that $125,000 grant. We're just waiting for that to wrap up. And also we're just waiting, I don't know. I'm just, they're going to start next week using it, but I don't know. I'm not sure what's going to happen, because if the weather gets too cold, then that's the end of that. So let's hope for some
Teresa-
warmer weather still. Let's hope for a
Teresa,
warmer
how long do when do the seniors, they have a meeting once every 2 weeks, once every week, once
No, every week on a Tuesday, every Tuesday.
Oh, okay. And it was, that's usually like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, right, or something, or earlier?
They come in about 11 o'clock. The meeting starts
Okay.
at around 12. Yeah.
Okay.
So let's see. Let's see what we can do, because it's been a long virus season here, and people really want to get back to normal. I understand that, but we want everyone to be safe and healthy too.
So, just as Teresa said, the school would like to start using the pavilion, the tennis court, and the field starting on the 29th, which means, and that's every day to January, February. The kids can be out to 20-degree temperature. So if we're going to allow the school to use it, then the seniors won't be able to use it. So just want to make sure about that. They have provided insurance. I sent the insurance over to the broker to be reviewed. They said they'll meet all the requirements for the insurance. So they're starting next week. On the October 6th meeting, I would like the village board to say that they've considered it and approved it officially, since it's village property, and approved their insurance, but that'll be after the fact. It'll be retroactively. So if the board is okay with that, then I'm going to have to tell the seniors that the pavilion will not be able to be used. So I want to make sure everybody's on the same page.
I know the town, I know Gary had mentioned this, can the seniors use the second floor and then just have a limited amount of people? Maybe we could have 2 days, maybe a Monday and a Tuesday.
What we could do upstairs is we got I forgot who mentioned it about measuring the size. Oh, Dwayne, we can measure the rooms, how many seniors can fit in, and then have them like a earlier morning and maybe a later afternoon, break it up, and then have the place cleaned up, and then we can have another group coming in later on. So we have 2 groups in a day, and we're limited to the number of sides, and the first come, first serve. I can talk to them about possibly doing that. It's a shame because I know they all like to get together at the same time. But we could do reservations first, and maybe get the group of people in the morning and afternoon if they want to do that, an hour or two, at least so they can get together and socialize a little bit.
I can't see a lot of the seniors coming out though. Some will. I know the town is doing it, but there's a limited amount of people coming out. So it's an option.
Yep. So I'll talk to them about that as well.
Okay, good.
Very good.
Okay, the next item is the recreation programs and probably the Halloween parade. So that's a board discussion as well. So Teresa, if you can start that.
Yes, I had sent an email out to the board. Some of the residents have been asking for the kids if there's something we could do for Halloween, a socially distancing event, whether it's a parade, whether it's a trunk or treat thing. I don't know. I also spoke to our recreation supervisor, and she's ready to come back to start working on that. But I just need to know what the board's thoughts are about having a Halloween event for the kids.
Well, I was thinking that if we can use both spaces, use where we normally meet at and the senior space to kind of do it on 2 floors of some sort, to have the distance, but also have more people showing up. I mean, that's as opposed to just trying to do it the way we did last year.
I think they're looking to use more of the pavilion, and if it's a nice day, I don't know, October 31st, Halloween is on a Saturday, but the thoughts were of, maybe having something at the pavilion or out in the field. But I don't think we're going to do October 31st because from 6 to 8, Mount Carmel is having some type of an event down there. So we might do something the night before. I don't know. Nancy, I had talked, like I told you, I talked to our rec supervisor, and there's a lot of thoughts out there of what to do. But the important thing is masks and social distancing, because of course, we don't want anyone to get sick.
Okay.
Teresa, but they were going to meet at the pavilion. You wanted to do something at the pavilion?
For the kids with for Halloween.
Oh, okay.
If the weather's okay, they could also use the backfield.
There was
I think the CDC recommended today that they can do their their parades, as long as they're all socially distanced, and they're recommending that.
Okay.
And they also made recommendation of not going door to door, but that's not going to affect the kids, that want to have the party that day or whatever it is. But I mean, that's a tough one with the pavilion there. But anything we can work out for the kids, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I know.
I thought that there was an email from Nancy describing how she would do certain things, which sounded good to me. I mean, she was talking about having the kids do a parade but in their family groups, and requiring that everybody wear masks, and have that the aides who are handing out candy be dressed up as nurses and doctors with masks on and stuff, so that they would be the ones giving out candy. I mean, the way what she described sounded like a good idea to me.
Yeah.
I think I have her email right here, and I was just going to bring that up. I like the idea that she has as well.
Yeah, it looks like something that could work.
Okay, and what about the big kids? No trick-or-treating for us this year, huh? Okay.
Well, you know what they're saying to do? They're saying to leave individually bagged candies on curbs, and people could social distance and walk by and just grab one and put it in their bags.
That's right.
All right. Well, there's ways around it. We just have to figure out, as long as everyone is safe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's an outdoor event, and if everybody cooperates, wears masks, I think it could work.
Yeah. We can pull this off.
All right, so if the board is okay, I'll tell Nancy that we're good for the Halloween parade. All right, perfect.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is a pool update. Just want to tell everybody in the pool about the pool. We do have some issues with the pool. We finally found a consultant. I provided the board with a proposal that I just received today. So it just came out today, so I don't have to, if everybody had time to review, we can discuss it later on.
Marcus.
Yes.
I noticed it was he was talking about $30,000, I think it was.
Yep, it was every 5 phases that probably run about all the way to 2022 by the time the process is done. So the County Department of Health requires a couple months of review process. So during that time, we're not paying the consultant. So you're right. This is something that's going to take over a year to get it done. And the 30,000 is just the consultant fees, and then any repairs, and talk to the consultant. I shared that with the board as well. He cannot determine how much has to be repaired in the pool until he starts taking things apart and see what's going on down there, because a lot of stuff is buried that has to be dug up. This pool was built back in, I think, in the 60s.
No, later than that, sometime in the 70s.
In the 70s.
It didn't come in with all the other infrastructure.
Yep. So a lot of stuff is buried under the concrete, and it's the original pools, the original filters. So he has to design it and then give it to the Department of Health, and then see what things are going around. He said what he was able to see doesn't look that bad. Maybe the pumps could be replaced, but Bob does have concerns there's more major issues underneath the pool. So we don't have to make a decision tonight. I would like to have a decision for the October 6th meeting. To see if we're going to move forward on that, because the more delay, we might lose. We can probably open next year, but we know the pool might have an issue. We might have to close it. We definitely have a leak in the pool that we can't determine where that leak is coming from. So, but we might have to squeeze one more year out of the pool, and then we got to determine what we want to do.
On the construction, with the consultant, now, is he looking at all the construction costs, or just what's the replacement cost?
No, replacement slash construction. So we're talking about tearing up whatever has to be torn up, replace the equipment that has to be replaced, and then putting everything back in. So all the way from doing a scope of work, picking a contractor, reviewing the work the contractor is doing, and review the work that the contractor is doing, and finalize everything with the department. Everything has to then be reviewed, approved, and then reviewed again by the Department of Health.
Yeah, so, but what I read in the email sounded like the intention was to not operate the kiddie pool next summer, only operate the regular pool, which it was felt that we could do, and then do this work in 2022.
Correct.
Which gives us time to budget for it. But we see that we have $30,000 in consulting engineer fees if we accept this proposal. But we have no idea what the work is going to cost, or do we?
Right.
Yeah, so he's saying by the time he gets to about phase 2 or phase 3, we'll have a better idea what the cost is going to be. And then we can either continue to work with him and go through the construction phase, or terminate and keep the pool the way it is. So there'll be steps along the way that as he goes through the process, he'll be able to give you a better estimate as we go through. Right now, he doesn't know anything about the pool right now. He looked at the original plans. We found the original plans. He says some of the valves are stuck. He can't open them. There's definitely a leak coming from somewhere in the pool, or somewhere in the area of the pool. We don't know where. And he says as soon as you're touching items, other things can break down, because that thing is, a lot of stuff is fused together and rusted together.
I'm sure it is.
I just have a problem, $30,000 for a consultant. It's a lot of money. It's, these consultants are brutal, and I would just imagine if we could, and I know, Marcus, you said you've had a hard time getting somebody, but if we could get somebody who owns a pool company, who works on pools, I just, I don't know where this can end up. There's $30,000 for the consultant, and then what? Then $100,000? I don't know.
Well, did Wills have a suggestion at some point of just kind of gutting what we've got and then doing something different altogether?
There's a possibility you can do a master plan and redo the pool. I mean, the idea is a lot of pools have turned into spray pools.
Right, or something.
So I don't know if your board wants to entertain that. That's a whole redone of the pool, and that's a lot more costly to change the concept. But again, municipalities that have money have gone into a mixed use where the kids are actually running around and pressing items and water sprays out, versus a bathtub, which is what the pool is. It just depends what you and the community wants. But that's more an expensive option, not only for consultant, but Department of Health approvals. The water and that water is drained and thrown away. So there's a lot more work into changing the concept of the pool itself.
I think if we were going there, I believe we had gotten a price on that. I just don't remember.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
But it was not cheap. It was over $100,000.
Oh, a spray pool. I remember when I was in Peekskill, we put a spray pool and it cost $250,000 for a spray pool.
No, I'd love to do it, but
yeah, that's a scary job because there's a lot of unknowns. So I suspect it could very easily double in cost once you start opening the ground, and we got a pool that's losing 2 feet of water at night if they don't keep pumping it. So
every day is leaking. Yes.
So if we didn't do the kiddie pool and just use the main pool to get us through another year, meaning 2021, how? I mean. And it's the consultant is talking about $30,000 to just continue to do the investigation of it. I think give ourselves some time and just stick with the main pool for next season, and leave the kiddie pool to the side and figure out what's going financially for it next year.
Yeah, just to make sure everybody understands that $30,000 is to do everything with the pool, not just do a design. It's actually do all the way to construction and completion of a pool that's fixed.
That's not doing everything, not the repairs. It's the engineering.
Just the planning.
Yeah, engineering and review, do the bid specifications and stuff like that. And Dwayne, you're absolutely right. The concern is that we might be able to squeeze out next year, but we had issues with the filtering system and the pumps. Bob thinks the pumps can fail at any time. So if that happens, then the entire pool is shut down. So that's the problem. We don't know if the pool will be able to operate next year. We're hoping it will, because even the consultant says there's no way we can do the process or Department of Health to get the pool running for next year. So we're hoping that the pool could run next year and we can open it. But then after that, we're just gambling year to year. The pool is past its useful life at this point. It can fail at any time.
Too bad we didn't have the work plan for this year when the pool wasn't open anyway.
Yeah, I know.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, just think about it, see what you guys want to do. I can have the consultant come to the next meeting and talk to the board about it if you'd like to do that as well. And
I think I'd like to hear his different options, maybe.
Sure. I can have him come to the next meeting, for the next Zoom meeting. We could discuss it. Absolutely. Okay.
Hey, Dwayne, we only got you from the nose up.
Yeah, move the phone. There you go. So the only other two things is, Teresa, if you want to mention maybe the census and the Port Cortland items that's going on, maybe we have to give the public an update on that.
The census. Marcus, did you get any confirmation from Norma whether that's going to be extended past September 30th?
Yeah, I emailed her and texted her. I did not get a response, text or email from her, so still waiting for a response.
Okay, so we're going to go by September 30th until we have further information, but that should be going out on Facebook. The library has offered anyone who needs assistance doing the, putting their census in and getting that done. They have offered for anyone to come in and they will help them to do that. So, Cindy, did we put that on Facebook yet? And we also have to do a code red on that.
I saw that. We didn't do it yet. We'll talk about it tomorrow.
Okay, good, perfect. Yeah, so we're trying to get, we're behind, way behind from where we were 10 years ago with the last census. So, it means money for the community and for the schools and everything. So it's very important that we get an accurate account. But they have been out. I've seen people out on the streets, census takers. So they are out actively. Marcus, the other thing was
Port Cortland, the town board approved tonight to they haven't voted yet. Okay, it's on the agenda for the town board, and it looks like it will pass probably 4-1 to move forward with the secret process for the Port Cortland project.
We're not. The village is going to do something different when the Entergy property becomes available. We're looking to do more of a mixed use on that property instead of manufacturing, because manufacturing is a lower tax amount for us with the construction. So, but it looks like the town is moving forward with that. I know Supervisor Puglisi is definitely against having that there. Remember, we had Stop the Buzz there. We had a couple of other things happening there. And then the town had the opportunity to buy that property from Con Edison, and they were going to use it for recreational purposes. So now Port Cortland, or the manufacturing of the windmills, is interested in that property, and the town is going forward with that. I don't know where that's going to end up. They're really moving along in the process. So this company wants to use 54 acres. The approximate 30 acres or so is where the quarry is. They will not be taking that. So we've been following this. The board has been following this. Marcus has been following this closely. It's a monstrosity of a building they want to put up very close to St. Patrick's Church. I don't know. It's a huge manufacturing facility, and then they will take the windmills, ship them to whatever on the up and down the East Coast. So we're not too interested in that project. So, but in the end, they were very interested in getting another. They want to do, I think, a total of 180 acres. So say roughly 60 acres in the town. They're looking for another 120 acres, which would be the Indian Point property. We're not interested in using that 120 acres for manufacturing. That would be half of the Indian Point property. So I don't know. I know our neighbors in Verplank are not happy, and I understand that. I absolutely agree with them. But it's town property, and hopefully in the end they'll see. There's other opportunities to put different things in that area. It's a beautiful piece of property right on the river. It's beautiful.
Teresa, if you
Teresa,
don't,
did you see the signs that are going out on
Yes.
the roads now?
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay.
So-
I
noticed them
work with
today.
those Verplank people. They're fighters.
Oh,
And,
yeah, yeah,
I
I
work
saw
with them
quite a
with
few
Stop the
today.
Buzz and
Oh,
there was
yeah.
something else. And,
Oh,
yeah,
I remember that.
support them 150%. I
Yeah.
definitely do. I understand what they're saying.
Yep.
So I would like to give some additional details to the people who haven't known what's
Sure.
going on over there. The building itself, the Tarbell building, is a 5 acre size building, 5 acres. It's going to be about 65 to 70 foot high. They're going to be producing what you call the turbines, the nacelles, as well as the blades. The blades are 350 to 400 feet long. That's the size of the blades they'll be manufacturing there. At the last meeting, they also mentioned they're going to be building the nacelles. The nacelles is where the generator is in. That weighs between 500 to 700 tons. That's going to be built there as well. They're talking about three shifts to 4 shifts, 24-hour operation, working as well. Truck traffic coming from Route 9A down Welcher Avenue to Broadway, or through Blakely Avenue onto Broadway. So all that truck traffic will be coming through the village. They're heading into the site. So the amount of materials necessary to build this is substantial, and a lot of truck traffic. So there's, to me, there's a lot of concern of the impacts to the village and the road beds and the traffic of the trucks every day. They're talking about between 400 to 450 part-time and full-time employees. If anybody's interested, I've done searchings on YouTube on European windmills, so you can see the size and the scope of those structures, so you see how big they are.
Yeah,
So I
you
just
sent
want-
us that.
Yep. So
Yeah,
the board has a copy of those, so it's very interesting how they build it. But I cannot believe they're building something like that in an area so close to New York City, and taking away waterfront property. In my own opinion, take away waterfront property that could be used for the public, for public good. So the town is considering it. Hopefully, the board will look at doing something different with Indian Point, which I'm glad the board seems to go in that direction. We got a great opportunity here to turn a manufacturing warehouse into a public use space that everybody can enjoy the waterfront. So that's on the village point of view. So I want to thank the mayor and the board to look at different concepts and watching what's happening next door. But what happens next door is going to possibly negatively affect our quality of life in the village.
So
Well,
I just want to clarify something because it's going to get turned around. I am not anti-building. I'm not anti-development. But you know what? This has to be smart development. This is our one chance to get this right. So you know what? We have to develop. We have to help our ratables, our tax base. But you know, it has to be done smartly. It's not a manufacturing facility is the answer to that. And what amazes me when AKRF, the company that's trying to push this, you ask really, you know, when we had asked them, well, you're always talking high paying jobs. What does that mean? There's no answer. You know, it's like, well, and Marcus, before originally, they couldn't even tell us who the company was that would be coming in. You know, there's just a lot of stuff that's not coming to the surface. There's not a lot of answers. I don't know how anyone could move forward until they have all the answers on that. But like I said, the village is really not interested in that type of a development. We have to do development, but that's not something we're interested in. Sorry. Thanks.
Thank you, Teresa. Thank you for being on top of this.
Yeah, I think generally you guys are both making good points. I basically agree. I'm primarily concerned with the currently undeveloped northern parcel as far as what we're talking about with doing a mixed use that includes public access. That's the primary parcel I'm concerned with, because everything else is on a whole different timeline. And even if they, you know, you're talking about 120 acres of the Entergy property, roughly half of it. If we consider that undeveloped parcel and the nuclear portion, then they're not going to be able to touch for a long, long time. That pretty much means the southern half of the Entergy property. If indeed that's not something that returns a high rate of tax income, then I would agree we should not we should try to keep that out of there, but, do we really, are we sure of what well, they would go for a pilot from what
Yes.
they're saying.
Just on that part, Nick, their discussion has been they're looking for subsidies. The governor of the state has about $100 million in grants and loans. So what they've told the town is the property will be sold to an end user to build the windmills, and they'll do a 5 to 10 year pilot, and that pilot will make up the difference between the cessation fund and the loss of the revenue of the taxes. But that'll be for 5 or 10 years, as long as the subsidies keep on coming in.
Yeah.
So,
You know, I mean, do we know for sure that for that southern half of the Entergy property, that's the portion that is adjacent to the sheetrock plant, and I guess it's the current area where they have their security building and their administration building, but not the nuclear portion, not the undeveloped woodlot. Do we know that something else that, because I don't see how in those areas that we would get mixed use, whereas I do see that on the undeveloped parcel. So are we, do we know that, I mean, it could be that it'll be 20 or 30 years before we get some other industrial use in there. We don't, So
that's a good question. David Smith is on the line. That's a good question to talk about, because when you talk about Broadway Inn, and that area is totally clean. I don't see why you couldn't get some kind of mixed use in that area. As long as you buffer it away from probably the windmills.
You think that you could do mixed use in there?
We get to have that discussion with David and see.
You're talking about post decommissioning.
No. That so far, what my understanding, Teresa can correct me if I'm wrong, the only part that's going to be used for decommissioning is the general area around the domes and where the waste fuel is going to be. The rest of that land could be sold much quicker and redeveloped.
As long as the NRC releases it, it's the middle section of the property really that has to be decommissioned. The southern section could potentially be available where the training center is and where the gas pipeline is, and across the street. Entergy owns property across the street, the other side of Broadway too.
North of the cemetery?
Yes, north of cemetery. There's some property there too. So things to think about, things to work on. So we'll see. The sale supposedly goes through next year, and then we'll have a more clear picture of what Holtec, if Holtec buys it, if Holtec is interested in letting some of that property go, and if the NRC is agreeable to that too.
Yep, exactly.
Yep.
Okay, that's all I have for open session, Mayor, and the rest of the board members. We have a pretty lengthy executive session, so unless the Mayor or the board members have anything that we're discussing open session.
Is on that executive session list, is that really all executive session qualified stuff?
I believe so. If there's anything there that we hit that's not executive session, we won't discuss it. I give my word on that one, but I believe it is, and I give more details in the executive session.
So I see stuff, personnel and litigation and
Yes.
so forth. Okay, so then we'll go through the list, and if it's should be in public, what do we do? Come back out of executive session?
We won't discuss it, and we'll discuss it at the next meeting.
Okay.
Do that. Okay. I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session to discuss contractual, legal, personnel. Anything else, Stephanie? Did I cover all our bases there? What we're discussing?
Was any of the stuff on that list meant to be discussed with the zoning board?
Yes, they're staying on. That's the first item on the agenda in
they're
executive.
staying in for executive session?
Yes.
Oh, isn't that special?
Okay. On a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.